The Georgia High School Association voted today to change their bylaws so that an athlete's sex is determined by their birth certificate and no longer up to the schools to determine. This comes less than a week after Governor Brian Kemp signed a bill urging the GHSA to address the issue.
The GHSA's State Executive Committee voted unanimously to change their bylaws so that when deciding whether a student athlete can play a sport, their sex is determined by what's on their birth certificate.
You know it's obvious. The devil went down in Georgia. He was looking for a few souls to steal because he was in a bind and he needed to make a deal. You may know it as a song from the late, great Charlie Daniels. And after the Lia Thomas controversy, the good people of Georgia have had enough, and they're not playing with the devil anymore.
It's something that, you know, that the body, the association, has looked at for quite some time, and it was requested that we took a look at it, you know, in the legislation, and so we did.
Georgia High School Association Executive Director Robin Hines says schools must now use the sex listed on a student's birth certificate to determine whether he or she plays on a girls' or boys' team. The GHSA's Executive Committee met in Thomaston Wednesday to approve the update. Previously, the GHSA bylaws left it up to member schools to determine an athlete's gender. But last week, Governor Brian Kemp signed a bill into law that assigned the GHSA with deciding whether it was, quote, necessary and appropriate to prohibit males from participating in female sports.
In a unanimous vote, the Georgia High School Athletic Group made sure that where there are sports available for both genders, girls will be playing girls' sports and boys will be playing boys' sports. There is a notable exception, however.
The rule change does not affect female athletes who want to participate on a boys' team, like football, when the school doesn't field a girls' team.
Did you get that? To make sure that they satisfy Title IX, if there's no girls' football team, the girls can go out and play on the boys' football team. I love that one. The Georgia High School Association did the unspeakable in the age of Twitter whiners and said that in Georgia, athletes must play on teams that match the sex listed on their birth certificate. From 2016 until now, the Georgia Association allowed individual schools and school boards to decide what teams transgender students could play on. With this new law, that can no longer be determined by individual schools and boards. I have a question. Why in the world did the school and school boards have the opportunity and power to determine where players were going to play based upon their identity? Georgia High School Association Executive Director Robert Hines said the change just reverts back to the birth certificate rule that existed, quote, forever before 2016. This is merely focusing on athletic equity and competitive balance. Proponents of the return to normalcy recognized the inherent physical advantage that transgender girls have over biological girls. Why? Because they were born as stronger males and warned that those born as girls could be denied places on a team or on a podium if playing against transgender girls. You know, science and all. Republican Governor Brian Kemp said he wanted to protect fairness in school sports. Opponents said excluding transgender children would send a harmful message to a group that's already vulnerable to suicide or harming themselves. To these very vulnerable trans kids who do appear to have substantial mental health issues, they will receive this as a message of rejection. If these kids are vulnerable to suicide and have mental issues, it's not sports that they need. Why aren't you guys addressing what's really happening with these kids?
I really think they acted very hastily, and unfortunately, this will have a negative impact on not just transgender kids, but LGBT kids in general.
You also have to wonder why they lump gay kids and transgender kids together. They're completely different. Any gay person will tell you. The reason they do that is because they just don't have the numbers when dealing just with transgender individuals and kids. So they're trying to enlist the help of the gay community to help push the transgender agenda. At least 12 states have passed laws similar to what Georgia just passed. and others are working quickly to do the same. And as you would expect, the woke mob is freaking out, even though it's unclear if any transgender students were actually participating in Georgia sports. But that's not the point. The focus became clear that something had to be done when parents, coaches, and students saw the Lia Thomas debacle. Opponents argue that this action could violate Title IX of federal education law prohibiting sexual discrimination. It was in an executive order signed by Joe Biden that prohibits discrimination based on gender identity.
There's some clear federal lawsuits that could be brought, assuming there's a student who is denied the opportunity to participate in a certain sport, targeting them, making them feel different, and making them feel marginal. And so I think that's important to emphasize that the discussion has been about fairness, but it's been about fairness only for the cisgender students.
So you know what's coming next, don't you? The trans advocates will run to every courthouse they possibly can to try and get this law overturned. But I think the devil is going to have to take his fight elsewhere. This law passed unanimously. It didn't slide by. The vote was 64-0. You can't have a more clear message than that. The people kicked the crap out of the devil, and I'm pretty sure they will fight once again if they have to. So collectively, the good people of Georgia are saying, devil, just come on back if you ever want to try again. We told you once, you son of a gun, we're the best there's ever been. Good for the people of Georgia. Let me know what you guys think. I've been following this Lia Thomas debacle for some time, so if you click here, you're going to see a couple of videos where I talk about that. Let me know what you think. Talk to you soon.